Hey, 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 all you happy lost souls. How's everybody doing today? The first thing I got to get out of the way is I want to thank you all. The channel is growing. Subscriptions almost doubled. We're over 2,500. So we'll talk about some rocks, go on wild tangents like usual. Um, and in addition, let's get this light on so you can get rid of some of that shadow. In addition, I'm going to be, this will be the first video um, where you can, for free, enter into the giveaway. So if you're new to this or you haven't been following or watching Happy Lost Souls that long, I have done two giveaways already. And I'll be giving away some of the rough stuff I've cut recently to help further identify what stones they are. You'll be getting a couple of rough corundum samples, and I'll make some kind of unique jewelry out of some of this bluer stuff that I cut down here. Um, so, so yeah, you'll get that. You'll get some Happy Lost Souls merchandise, T-shirt or mug or something like that. Not a huge prize, but it gets a lot better. So the winner of this particular contest will be announced right around 3,000 subscribers. About every 1,000 subscribers, I run a contest. All right. There's been two winners before this. This will be the third contest. When you win the contest and your prize arrives, you'll receive a code on back of a picture usually, or in a little note that comes with the gift, the giveaway, if you're a winner. That code enrolls you into a grand prize giveaway. And we'll be doing the grand prize giveaways at like 10,000 subscribers in 10,000 subscriber chunks. That prize will be much larger. Probably some kind of tech item, since I work in the tech field, computer, phone, gaming system, something like that. But if you're not one of those 10, then you don't go into that final drawing at 10,000 subscribers. How you enter into the contest, all you have to do is leave a comment below this video. I'll be releasing several other videos that allow people to enter into the contest by simply leaving a comment to this video below. The comment automatically enrolls you into the free drawing around 3,000 subscribers. We put your YouTube handle in this hat right here, in the lucky hat, and we pick a winner. And the winner is announced in a video. And then through usually email, we get the people's information on where they want their prize sent to, and we send it out. No shipping, completely free. This is not a contest; it's a giveaway. We'll keep those words so the algorithm doesn't get too upset. So, a couple things I wanted to go over because I do read comments here and there, and my one big video is about learn how to use one of these diamond testers right here. And I go all through it, and there seems to be confusion about how these work. I'm not going to test stones again with this because some of these are wet now too. That'll affect the diamond reader. But the confusion is on how these actually work. They measure heat conductivity on a material. So this little probe down here puts out some heat. And diamonds and moissanites, they conduct heat extremely quickly. So this thing measures how fast the heat is being drawn through that object. The faster the heat gets drawn through that object, the closer to diamond it is. So it's essentially not testing just hardness, but mainly conductivity. Some of the higher end ones use heat and electricity to test it to become more accurate. These will get you around the right idea for your material. They're not spot on. Remember, corundum usually falls in between this 8 and this arrow on the scale. But this isn't by far the best test. This is just the first thing to kind of sort out what's hard and what's real soft, or what's quartz and what might be something else. So we go to these little cheap diamond testers. Now, after we find our pile of stones that's reading harder, we then do other tests. The scratch test is when you take a piece of corundum or quartz and you run it across glass, and usually if it scratches the glass but it doesn't scratch the stone, you generally don't have quartz, you have corundum. So, and that cuts right through. So a good scratch test is, a quartz is not going to leave a mark on metal or glass without leaving its own mark behind. So it's too hard to scratch the surface of the glass. Some quartz is harder than glass, so that's a little bit of a misnomer. But if you have metal, stainless steel, or even better yet, like I use these old tiles here for scratch tests, if your stone cuts through this porcelain on the back and doesn't leave any of its own marking behind, like I've used this a bunch of times, you see all the scratching, then you know you have something that's harder than quartz, something that's harder than spinel, something that's probably up in the corundum area. Now, if you scratch this and you see color, or it leaves a mark behind, the actual stone is rubbing off onto the tile, and you know that your stone is softer than this, so it obviously can't be a diamond or it can't be a corundum, because corundum is harder than this material. A real surefire way, though, which involves a little math, so I don't want to scare people off. The best way to really get an accurate read on what material your stone is made out of is by measuring its gravity. And I don't know if anybody has ever heard of when you measure, a stone's gravity. I forgot to grab my digital scale. I'm going to be putting out a video and weighing some of the stone's gravity in front of you. And how you do this, I wish I had my digital scale in this room, but I think it's in the other room. I have a couple of them. But you first weigh your rock in the air. So you simply put your rock on the digital scale, and you do this in grams, okay? So you weigh your rock on the scale, you get its weight in grams. So let's just say, for our example, we have 10 gram stone in air, all right? The next part is we take a glass of water, larger than the stone you're testing, obviously. Same stone that you dropped on the dry scale and got the weight of. You then take a little string or piece of metal, you tie it around the stone, and you suspend it in the water on top of the scale. You then tear the scale. There's a tear button that'll subtract the weight of the container and weigh just in the water and just weigh the weight of the stone that's suspended. You then take these two numbers that the scale has given you, and you do a math equation. And the math equation used for measuring a stone's gravity, which is SG, specific gravity, is the actual equation you're going to use. And that equation is not too difficult. It's the weight of the stone in the air, divide it by the weight of the stone in the air, subtract it by the weight of the stone suspended in the water. So it's the weight of the stone in the air. So in our example, we put it on the scale. It gives us 10 grams. So it's 10 grams. Divide it by 10 grams, subtract it by whatever its weight was, suspended in the water. So generally, you're going to get, with corundum, if we do it on tens, you'll get, if it's a 10 gram stone and it's suspended in water, it's going to be 7.5 grams suspended in water corundum, if we're basing it all off of a 10 gram sample. So you would get something like 10 divided by 10 minus 7.5. 7.5 would be its weight in the water. So it reduces to 10 divided by 2.5, and you get a specific gravity of 4. Regardless of the weight of the grams you start with, or the size of the stone, its specific gravity will always come around 4 for corundum. Same thing, you can test quartz. Quartz is going to come in lower because it's a lot lighter. And specific gravity is kind of how heavy a stone feels for its size, and corundum is going to feel significantly heavier than quartz in its specific gravity. Quartz comes in around 2.6, glass is around 2.4. But the specific gravity test, coupled with the scratch test, paired with one of these cheaper hardness readers, if all those three different testings line up and you get the results you want, you get a much better identification than just using one of these instruments. But I really suggest everybody trying the specific gravity. Don't worry if you didn't take it all in right now. I just mentioned it because I've seen so many comments in the videos lately about specific gravity and whatnot. So I wanted to, about these stone testers and how heat could possibly measure hardness. Remember, it's not really measuring hardness, it's measuring the conductivity of the heat. So essentially, if the probe tests an object that's softer, the heat will stay around the probe longer. It measures the time it takes for the heat to disappear from the area of the probe. The faster the heat disappears, the closer to hardness of diamonds, the more conductive it is. These are all stones down here that I recently, with my big old new saw over here, I cut some samples down. I got mainly rough corundum samples. I have some crazy agates back here. This is just a paintbrush with some water, because after you cut these, they can get very, very, to get a layer of dust on them. You can really see this nice granite quartz type stone here. I really thought this had some kind of fossil in it because of the outside, but it's just got this lacing from this agate in this rock here. I was hoping it was a geode of some sort, but it wasn't. This is not cut, but I brought it out to kind of compare it to some of the other sheened sapphire. And here's another larger piece of blue right here. It's really blue, pointy. Originally thought this was agate, but it's coming in way too hard for that. And it also has this layer of biotin schist on it. And you see a piece of the schist itself here, just to bring in, they get these really shiny parts to them within the schist. So what you'll get in the sheening process is the sapphire will form, but within its inclusions, mostly on its surface, a layer of this biotin starts to grow. But you can see the complexes, the shape of the corundum. It's still in its very hexagonical, and it's got that same exact shape on the outside, tries to keep that hexagon conical shape. And right here you have something called self-terminating matrices. You have two crystals running into each other and then terminating. They're almost fused together here. This is blue sheen sapphire, and this right here is schist with a whole lot of mineralization going on. This schist had probably a whole lot of mercury in it. It had obviously some titanium in it. Might have even had some different metals that have more of a radioactive feel to them. I'm trying to remember the names of them besides titanium, but there's definitely titanium in this piece here, because in this piece, I'm going to show you how cool this looks when I wet it right here. Look at this corundum. Look at this corundum that has all kinds of impurities in it, and you just see all the blue and the purple and reds running through it. So essentially it's almost like there's serpentine that got compressed, that had tons of metal in it, with the schist, heated it, metamorphosized, and it's still got this layer of mica on the outside of it, but you can see the mineralization going straight through. I mean, look how gorgeous that is, the striping in that. I'm going to cut a piece of this stuff down. This will be in the prize package as well as some of the blue right here. This is some really included, really rough blue sapphire, but it has this really cool colorations to it from the inclusions of the schist and the different color zonings from the impurities. This stuff over here is a type of garnet. This right here is more rough corundum, and you can see the color zoning. I want to show you guys that real quick. First off, you see the barrel shape on the outside, but let's just get that all wet so you can see what the actual color will look like polished up. You can see that red color zoning around like a crust, and then the inside of that really rough corundum. And this is what really rough grade corundum looks like, that you'll find they call corundum ore. They crush this stuff up a lot. They make sandpaper, different abrasives for industry, industrial uses. I got some gemstone inside of schist here. It's very, very cool. There's gemstones forming throughout this schist in here. These test very hard. Odd for sapphire to kind of form like that, but it is extremely hard. I don't think it's exactly quartz. It could be some kind of common opal. Usually opal forms in more of old lake beds that are dried up and, that have become sedimentary and then replaced by the opal over time. I'll get into opal in another video and how that forms. I don't really have an area conducive to finding it, so I really don't talk about it that much. It can exist inside of other rocks, sometimes metamorphic rocks if there's seams or cracks, or sedimentary stones sometimes. But opal is a whole different animal. I find a lot more corundum and quartzites, agates, garnets, lots of garnets, obviously, in the area because of all the crazy tectonic activity millions and millions and millions of years ago. Like I said, the area that I live in is part of an ancient rift valley from hundreds and hundreds of millions of years ago that occurred when the continents all pulled apart to form the current continents now. So there's a mass continent called Pangaea. They all split apart. And where they split apart all those millions of years ago is where, in this area, southeastern Pennsylvania, through Connecticut, through Maryland, all of the valley of the actual Appalachians, essentially. And you can see the scarring and the trauma on the landscape from above. If you look at maps, you can see the geology and how one continent kind of died and fell off of another one as it broke apart, allowing all these metamorphic upticks, allowing all this melted rock and stone from the mantle to become exposed and be instantly cooled within water or air under different pressures and forces, being exposed to different elements, simultaneously forming all different types of minerals and gems in the process. My area also has a lot of active geothermal activity under the actual creek I find a lot of this stuff in. Some of the springs are cold now, and they're just springs, but some of them are still very, very warm. A lot of the creek will never freeze. In the winter, you see steam coming off of it. These areas are extremely dangerous to try to explore. I've tried once in my younger years when I was about 16 or 17, and if I did not have a few friends with me that day, I probably wouldn't be here because there's so much quicksand and mud and bog back there that you can just disappear. I was jumping across the bank. I saw a bunch of dry leaves on the other side. I thought it was dry ground. I hit those leaves and I went up to about 4 or 5 inches above my waist into mud. And every time I tried to move, I just sunk deeper. By the time my friends got over to me, I was up to my chest or neck. And I got pulled out by a stick, essentially. So very, very scary. We didn't really have cell phones yet then. Maybe one of us did. Some big old boxy looking phone. But anyways, I don't really venture back there. No one really does. It's all swamp land. It's not a huge part of the creek. It's just not very accessible. You can try. People do go back there a couple times a year to check on all the endangered alligator snapper turtles that like to hibernate back in those areas and lay their eggs and things like that. But this is cool right here. This is just a massive slab of green sapphire. Green sapphire a lot of times will form these big old slabs. I polished this down a little bit just to bring out the transparency. When I found this stone, it was solid white and waxy looking in color with blue stripes. Sapphire oftentimes has a very waxy look, almost like a bar of soap. It won't have inclusions in it. It'll have color zoning sometimes, like a different color in one area, but you notice it won't have mica or silicates inside of it, ever. The only thing that can sometimes get trapped in rough corundum is mica, and then that creates a different type of corundum called a sheen sapphire or sheen corundum. Most commonly they come in blue or gold sheen. I have one beautiful, astounding gold sheen sapphire in one of these cases, but I'm not digging through that tonight. Most of my better sapphires that are in reach are out on this table, and there's a lot of color changing properties, and these different metals that taint the process when the aluminum oxide is forming create the colors. Generally, aluminum oxide is very, very clear. The other inclusions you may often see on the surface only, they can be polished out on sapphires like on this one, is you'll see because there's these lines or there's this cleavage, over time as the water carried calcium in it over the stones in the creek, it deposits calcium down into these surface cracks, and then over time it hardens up into what we call calcite. And that might be what this is right here. It might have schist with a lot of calcite that started growing down into these inclusions on the surface of this real blue stone right here. I think it's palladium. Palladium is one of the metals that is will give it a color changing color changing effect to the stone. This one is seriously color changing. This guy right here, it goes from purple to like blue. When the light's off, it's like almost black. Seeing all these, this one's really cool because you can see just how clear it is, and you can finally start seeing the greenish. And you see all those stripes or those bands. That's called needling or pinning, and this is a very common inclusion in a sapphire. It gives it that waxy color. Those bands were actually blue, and then the white part was almost a tint, like a yellowish before I polished it and it became transparent. These tight bands of like a lighter blue and yellow right on top of each other give it this eerie type of green color to it when the light gets on it. This obviously is a massive piece. It weighs pounds and pounds and pounds. But it still has some of that schist on the outside. I left this schist just so you could see that it'll get down into some of the inclusions and it'll grow. First thing that goes down is probably the calcite, and the calcite acts as like an anchor for the schist. For the mica to grow on. But it won't be inside. You get rubies. These rubies are actually very, very clear, even though they look like they're not. But again, you can see the banding and the striping throughout the stone, and these pinning or needling, as it's a common inclusion. This one's very, very clear. It has this one has something called a horse tail or a horse feather inclusion in it with this color zoning in the red right there. It's a very rare attribute. I thought this stone was like royal topaz for a while because of like how orange and how clear it is and how nice it is, but I've tested it 6 ways to Sunday, and it's much harder than topaz. So, it's most likely in that corundum category. It probably falls in a pad paradasha. Anytime you get this yellow mixing with the reds like this, forming a color change between pink and yellow, it's called a pad paradasha sapphire. It's one of the most valuable colors of sapphire. And then this is just really rough corundum. Like this is like industrial grade corundum. This is kind of what it looks like right here. Doesn't look like much, okay? Anyways, some people even refer to like the super rough stuff that you find around as emery, like an emery board that you like clean your nails with. Here's a really big rough ruby in the back. You see the blue color banding running through it. Anyway, guys, I wanted to mention and bring up the diamond testers and how not to let those little cheap HMKIS diamond testers or any kind of thing that's measuring how fast something conducts heat be the ultimate tester of hardness. They do a great job at determining whether things are diamonds, But the real purpose was to determine if something was a diamond or a moissanite. A moissanite's a fake diamond, artificial. Moissanites also conduct heat extremely quick, so a lot of times, unless you have a really good diamond tester, they're not actually good for discerning a moissanite from a real diamond, unless you get a much better one that's using electricity along with heat, and using different mathematical variances to come to a conclusion. These will get you there, though, especially if you start with a baseline. Like if you test glass, and it's coming up around 5.5, 6, you know that it's reading that right, then you go from there to test your other stuff. I always found that they give you a really good indicator. They let you sort through a big pile of rocks, determining which one is harder and which one is softer. Once you get those initial piles, then you have to go and test more and more and more. And once you're really sure, you can then take a sample of those, cut it down a little bit. The smoother and smaller the stone is, the better those readers work. They're really meant for cut jewelry, not for big samples like this. So that's why I like to cut a lot of the samples into, especially that are slab or real rough, that aren't in any kind of matricy. I know that it doesn't affect the value for cutting them down. I like to cut them down, get them real smooth, take a really tiny sample piece and test that for the hardness. And that's what you want to do. Take a small piece, and again, I'll have an upcoming video very shortly where I demonstrate how to weigh a stone's gravity. So its specific gravity is what it's actually called. Remember, the equation is Sg equals A divided by A minus B. It's a very simple equation. A is the weight of your stone on the scale in air, just weighing it normally. B is the weight of the stone, same stone suspended in a cup of water from a string, weight on the scale. And you tear the weight away of the string in the cup, and you're left with the weight of the stone suspended in water. That number is subtracted from the number of the actual weight in air and is divided by the weight in air to give you its actual gravity. And a corundum's actual gravity should come in around 4. Quartz should come in around 2 something. Glass a little lower. And specific gravity is an extremely accurate test for helping you identify your stones. And also, once you've done that, get a piece of tile or glass and run your stone across it and see if it scratches down into that porcelain or down into that glass. You got to use multiple tests to come to a conclusion. The other thing is XRF. XRF is an X-ray, and it takes a mass spectrometry based on the wavelengths of the X-rays coming back. They're extremely expensive. They could be 40 to 100,000 for one of these. You pretty much have an entire career if you buy one, because you can test just about any material that contains any kind of trace metals to get an answer of what that material is. If I held it up to one of these rocks, it would probably come back aluminum oxide, because it has a signature of aluminum that can be measured by XRF. Some other materials aren't going to really be identified by XRF if they have no metals in them, because the X-ray refraction and all that runs based on a lot of metals. And yeah, so that's not going to happen anytime soon unless the channel really blows up, because I don't have $50,000 to drop on a tool right now. Hoping someday it grows enough where I can get my hands on one of them, and then I'll have a serious business on my hands. You can also cut these into smaller pieces, especially the stuff that isn't in matrice. Send samples out to labs. Don't send a whole big piece. A lot of labs don't accept that, so they got to be cut down. You don't want to send a giant piece, especially without insurance. What if it ends up being an amazing gemstone and it somehow, quote unquote, gets lost coming back to you in the mail? If at any time, if you can visit the places that grade these and authenticate them in person, if you're fortunate enough to live near one, do it in person, just so there's no risk of having your stone or your rough material stolen. Got a lot of quartz down here. I was in the area aggressively looking for the lost silver mines years ago. That's how one of my first big popular videos was on the lost silver mines of the Susquehannock. I did find them, at least the remnants of them, and it's tied to such a bigger mystery that I had to kind of take a pause from that story. But I haven't stopped working on it. It's all tied to George Washington. It's tied to even before George Washington, the 1500s. It's tied to all kinds of deeper things. It's tied to the Jones Gang and the robbery of the Newtown Treasury of all its silver in the 1700s. It's linked to all of that. But the pieces just keep leading to other pieces, and the mystery just keeps growing. You answer one thing, another riddle pops up. But the George Washington research on the secret encampment surrounding these lost silver mines during the campaign of Philadelphia, I believe he used a lot of the land that I live on now in the surrounding area, which is the highest point in Montgomery County. I believe he used this as a launch point, a supply hub, and also a rear guard during 1777 in the Battle of Philadelphia. Not that many people care about the history of that. I know this because I put test videos out about George Washington, and I get far less views on that than I do on the rock videos. But if you want to check them out, there's all kinds of videos on my channel about the lost silver mines, the Jones gangs, and George Washington, and the mysteries of these lost silver mines. Obviously, the channel talks a lot about all the artifacts that we found in different areas and different streams. 90%, I would say 80% is Pennypack, 10% is Wissahickon, the other 10% is Neshaminy. This tray is all exclusively Neshaminy, these artifacts down here. I get a lot of people telling me that I just have geofacts and no artifacts, that they're just rocks. I'm well beyond that. I'm way too deep in the subject and been through too much schooling and academics to not know the difference between a stone tool and not a stone tool. So anybody that leaves comments like that you don't have any artifacts, you just have cool rocks, I don't take it seriously, and you need to go read a book. You need to read a book, and you need to go to school and learn about stone tool production and the various techniques used. You also need to understand what material can fracture and what material can't. These are all points made out of either rough blue sapphire or some variant of rough corundum. Even got a mammoth head pendant right there. It's like the side profile of a elephant or mammoth. Side profile of a horse in yellow sapphire, which is also a pressure flaking tool. We get lots of hooks made out of this stuff. We get lots of little drill bits and diamond points. Some of them aren't flaked at all. Some of them are unifacially flaked on one side. We get side profiles of animals, a lot of turtles. We get little tools and picks and hammers and effigies. We get these double-sided, where they take the gem band from the sapphire. You got yellow and blue banded here, and they use one half for the one side of the little hatchet effigy and one half for the other. Very, very cool. Got this little rough rock that looks very much like corundum, but you realize it was shaped this way into almost a hammer. It almost has some kind of letter stained on it or symbol stained on it too. But these over here are sorted over here because they sort of all follow the same material. They're all found in the same creek. They're all made out of some sort of very, very hard material that's harder than quartz. Most of it is corundum. Some of it could be other materials. More so very dirty corundum or included corundum. Some of them are just made out of really high-grade schists with metals like that seal effigy. And I'm not the only one that finds effigies along the Pennypack. There's been other people. I've seen pictures out there, beautiful finds. Saw a trout my buddy sent me. It looked like it was made out of schist or soapstone, three-dimensional, swimming. Almost looked like a model of a trout in soapstone or schist. It was hard to tell in the picture. It was most likely soapstone because of how easily it was shaped and curved into the shape of a fish, but it could have been schist too. Schist is very easy to work. It can be cut in both directions. You get a lot of little hook type instruments, weights, hooks, fishing type stuff, preforms. These trays over here I haven't gone through yet. I kind of just pulled them out of storage. They have to be organized and sorted. But really, I just wanted to, again, talk about this free giveaway. And this is the first video, guys. So remember, just leave a comment in this video if you want to be enrolled in the next free giveaway. The free giveaway will be announced in a video around 3,000 subscribers. And the way the contest works is I just put the name of the handle, from the comments in each one of the videos talking about the giveaway into a hat. And whatever name I pick out from the people that left comments in those videos will win the free giveaway, and also win a chance, another ticket, a number, a code that enters you into the 10,000 subscriber giveaway. And that's going to be like a tech item, like I said, like a computer, a phone, camera, something cool, because I work in the tech field. But anyways, guys, I love you all. Please subscribe, please comment. This won't be the last video that gets you entry into this giveaway. I'll post one or two more before the actual drawing. And at that point, the winner will be announced. I usually do it, right around every time I get 1,000 subscribers, sometimes a few more. So just keep an eye out for videos in the near future announcing opportunities to enroll in this giveaway. But if you've seen this video, you got no excuse. Just leave any kind of comment. I don't really care what it is. Just comment, and you will get a chance to win an awesome prize package, along with a chance to win a much, much bigger prize around 10,000 subscribers. And anyway, guys, peace, love. Please subscribe. Please stay safe. Please stay happy if you can. Please stay positive, even though it's really hard sometimes. We kind of got to find the most positive things we can in this world to get through some days. So you're not the only one out there struggling, but you've got to find your glory in your struggle sometimes. So if you are out there struggling, keep your head up. I love you. Keep your beliefs real. Stay true to yourself. And you'll be blessed. Reach out to others around you. But anyway, guys, we all go through stuff in life. So I just want to put that out there, that stay strong. You got to keep your head up. Shit happens. Anyway, guys, like I said, I love you. Please subscribe. I'm not going to keep you much longer. Most of you all have seen my rock room as it's growing, as things are getting more organized. These are all rocks. There's more rocks in here. I got a lot of the rocks out of all the Tupperwares that were organized, so most of those are out. These are full of gemstones down here. So there's going to be a lot more to come, and I'll be taking you along on adventures out in the field coming up soon. The summer is actually not my favorite time to go rock hunting, only because a lot of the spots I go to are extremely hard to access when there are leaves and stickers and the spring is fully bloomed, and it's like madness trying to get back to some of these hidden gem spots that I hunt. And it's just way easier if you wait for all the shrubbery to die in the fall. You just fight through the cold. But I like to go out, this is a tip, I like to go out after raining or flash flooding. This is when deposits and meandering streams flip up all kinds of new materials and contents. It also, the high water, when it settles, specifically heavier stuff will settle further away from the water because it's sunk first and didn't get pulled back into the water. So it's it's like a sluice, natural sluice. It kind of sorts material out by its weight and size for you after the rain. It's when I find a lot of my coolest stuff. Also use those ghost trees, any kind of white tree. And there's a bunch of them growing together and they're really old, and there was a lot of activity at that spot in the creek. There could have been an old mill, an old quarry site, just a site where land was cleared out to make canoes or boats or to make a village, because those white sycamore trees grow in really bad soil and they grow the fastest after an area is cleared. So if you clear woods, the first thing that's going to grow back are sycamores if they're in the area. Just by their nature and their biology, they'll grow back first. I have videos about ghost trees and artifact hunting tips. This video is kind of a bunch of everything, but it's mainly that contest. So guys, please comment. I love you all. Peace. Stay safe. Bye.